German Development Minister Schulze, on her visit to Burkina Faso, demonstrated a willingness to talk to the ruling military junta. In Benin, she'll support Berlin's effort to boost confidence in state structures. Over the weekend, there were attacks all over the country, and they happened at the same time. Both churches and mosques were targeted, bringing deaths and many casualties. According to the Catholic diocese of Dori, 15 people were killed that weekend during the Sunday Mass in the village of Essakane in northeastern Burkina Faso. The Federation of Islamic Associations of Burkina Faso reported that 14 worshippers, including an imam, were killed in a mosque in the eastern town of Natiaboani. The attacks are the worst in some time in the Sahel country of 22 million inhabitants, where terrorist acts have been spreading since 2016. Burkina Faso will be the first of 2 stops on a trip to region by German Federal Development Minister Schulze on Monday. Germany currently chairs the Sahel Alliance, a key development body. The Sahel region is full of potentials, which makes this area a land of opportunity: human capital, natural resources, renewable energy potential, a lot of minerals. Unfortunately, several factors hinder its development. Burkina Faso, Chad, Mali, Mauritania, and Niger face many challenges, including chronic insecurity, a lack of economic prospects, and poor access to education, employment, and essential services such as water and electricity. Climate change is weakening the region even more. With all these instabilities, an appropriate reaction, one that would be rapidly effective in the field, was necessary to deal with this unstable and fragile situation. A response taking security challenges into account. A response capable of ensuring the region's lasting and sustainable development. Development partners and large international organizations provided the response to this double-edged challenge of security and development. In July 2017, several development partners launched the Sahel Alliance, an international cooperation platform to provide more and better support for development initiatives in the Sahel. Since its launch, the African Development Bank, Canada, Denmark, the European Investment Bank, the European Union, France, Germany, Italy, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Norway, Spain, Sweden, the United Kingdom, the United Nations, the United States, and the West African Development Bank have joined the initiative as full members. 9 other countries or organizations have joined the Sahel Alliance as observer members: Japan, Belgium, Switzerland, Finland, the International Finance Corporation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change, Ireland, and the Organisation Internationale de la Francophonie. They participate in decision-making meetings of the Sahel Alliance, as well as in the work and activities of sectoral and thematic groups, including in the field in the G5 countries. However, they do not integrate their development projects into the portfolio designated and monitored by the Alliance. To provide an appropriate response to the challenges facing the Sahelian countries, the Sahel Alliance members decided to guide their work according to 4 key principles: targeting its fields of action, accountability between partners concerning shared goals, new, innovative, and more flexible modes of action, and a specific commitment to vulnerable and fragile zones. The first principle is that projects are targeted in 5 priority fields: education and youth employment, agriculture, rural development, food security, energy and climate, governance, decentralization, and basic services. Another cornerstone: the relationships between partners and the Sahel states are founded on an approach of mutual accountability, meaning that the goals to be achieved are defined, measured, and shared by all partners. Next, to accelerate both their implementation and their effectiveness, the projects will adopt new modes of action through innovative and more flexible financing methods and diversification of the stakeholders implementing them: NGOs, local authorities, and the private sector. And finally, the most vulnerable and fragile zones will be subject to particular attention. These principles aim to increase the coordination between partners and accelerate the implementation of assistance and projects while addressing the needs expressed by the beneficiary countries. The Sahel Alliance intends to help the Sahelian countries restore the foundations of stable societies to create a sustainable development and peace in the Sahel. In 2022, the Sahel Alliance is supporting more than 1,300 projects for a total amount of 28.77 billion euros. Despite having the Sahel Alliance, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger have signed a mutual defense pact, as the three Sahel countries aim to help each other against possible threats of armed rebellion or external aggression. The charter, known as the Alliance of Sahel States (ASS), binds the signatories to assist one another, including militarily, in the event of an attack on any one of them. Any attack on the sovereignty and territorial integrity of one or more contracted parties will be considered an aggression against the other parties, it says. It also binds the three countries to work to prevent or settle armed rebellions. Mali military leader Assimi Goïta said on his X social media account, "I have today signed with the heads of state of Burkina Faso and Niger the Liptako Goma Charter establishing the Alliance of Sahel States to establish a collective defense and mutual assistance framework. The Liptako Goma region, where the Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger borders meet, has been ravaged by armed rebellion in recent years. The alliance will be a combination of military and economic efforts between the three countries. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger were members of the France-supported G5 Sahel Alliance joint force with Chad and Mauritania, launched in 2017 to tackle armed groups linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS groups. They have undergone coups since 2020, most recently Niger. The West African regional bloc ECOWAS threatened to intervene militarily in Niger over the coup, but the regional bloc toned down its war rhetoric in recent weeks. Mali and Burkina Faso quickly responded by saying that any such operation would be deemed a declaration of war against them. Relations between France and the three states have soured since the coups. France has been forced to withdraw its troops from Mali and Burkina Faso and is in a tense standoff with the military that seized power in Niger. Mali has also asked the UN peacekeeping mission MINUSMA to leave the country. Niger's military rulers asked France to withdraw its troops and its ambassador, as France has refused to recognize the new military authority. Meanwhile, Mali has seen a resumption of hostilities by predominantly Tuareg armed groups over the past week, threatening a 2015 peace agreement. Burkina Faso has been under military rule following two coups in 2022, with Captain Ibrahim Traore at the helm. Mali had its coup in 2020, headed by President Assimi Goïta. Niger followed in 2023, headed by Presidential Guard Abdourahmane Tiani, who later declared himself leader of the country. Captain Ibrahim Traore, since his rise in power, has done a lot to improve security conditions in his country. Indeed, as the security situation improves due to the intervention of army, some displaced people have been returning to their villages. In late January, the country also joined Mali and Niger in announcing its decision to leave the Economic Community of West African States. To justify their exit from the Economic Community of West Africa, the three countries, now collectively known as the Alliance of Sahel States, AS, accused the regional organization of not assisting them against jihadists and deviating from the ideals of its founding fathers and Pan-Africanism. This alliance gives them political cover and support in the face of growing pressure from ECOWAS and other regional institutions to comply with their transition deadlines. Captain Ibrahim Traore during this rise in power promised he will be committed to fighting terrorism and respecting ECOWAS' transition timetable, which was set for June 2024, but Burkina Faso, along with neighbors Mali and Niger, gave notice of their immediate withdrawal from ECOWAS. That decision adds to doubts about Burkina Faso's ability to meet its transition deadlines. Burkina Faso has strengthened its political and military cooperation with Mali and Niger. Although, as the ECOWAS withdrawal shows, this has come at the expense of stronger regional, and in some cases, international ties. The withdrawal from ECOWAS would be one of the issues that's expected to be on the agenda during German Development Minister Schulze's visit. Not only has Germany decided to help Burkina Faso and other African countries, but Russia too intends to help African countries in their way. They recently announced a visa-free travel regime with all African countries. In early September 2023, local Russian media was buzzed with the latest information emerging from the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs that Russia plans a visa-free regime with all African countries, referring to the fact that it was within the framework of Russia and Africa's action plan adopted at the Second Russia-African Summit in St. Petersburg. Investigations and research indicate that Russia has visa-free agreements with 6 or more African countries. And visa-free regime only applied to African countries that signed agreements with the Foreign Ministry. Within the agreements, only holders of diplomatic passports are permitted under this consular agreement. Moreover, the point of developing or facilitating work, easing contacts with African countries, between ordinary citizens of Russia and Africa still needing visas to travel both ways. According to sources monitored, agreements have to be signed after successful negotiations with Russian authorities. One source confirmed in an interview that Russia had an agreement on visa-free travel for holders of diplomatic service passports with 32 countries on the continent, and yet refused to make public and to the media the official list of approved African countries. Russia's extensive courtship of Burkina Faso in recent months has included 25,000 metric tons of free wheat, an agreement to build a nuclear power plant, a personal security detail for junta leader Captain Ibrahim Traore, and now 100 paramilitary fighters. To assist with the situation of insecurity in Burkina Faso, a Russian contingent of 100 people will ensure the safety of the country's leader, Ibrahim Traore, and the Burkinabé people from terrorist attacks, and soon after, the units will be replenished with another 200 military personnel from Russia. The military specialists will train Burkinabé forces and patrol dangerous areas. This will not sit well with the US, as they are slowly losing their hold on not only Burkina Faso but Mali, Niger, and maybe other African leaders' countries might as well join the countries in fighting for the good of their countries. After visiting Burkina Faso, Schulze will continue her trip to the northern border region of Benin, a country of 13 million inhabitants, which has also seen increasing terror attacks in the last few years. Follow us as we give you more updates on Germany and Russia's plans to help Ibrahim Traore.